So as you can see, I haven't used just SpeedTree for this project. I've also used Houdini, Guerilla Render, also Medium for sculpting. In this video, I will just share to you a few hints on what are the techniques I've been using to build this full scene. So it's not actually really part of the tutorial, but more as a breakdown for this project. I also use SpeedTree to create a few shrubs like that for populating my scene. So I just randomize a few versions of them and export them, and then I just scatter them on the big trees and also place some of them by hand during the layout of the scene. For this one, I imported a few flower mesh so that I could just make a second leaf generator that use randomly these flowers. And for this one, I didn't went for the point cloud export because they are not so heavy, and I just made a small asset, a self-containing asset with its own leaves and textures. So I made a few versions like that. Some of them were just to pop out from the big trunks, and some of them were to just grow from the ground. So I made a few versions of them like that. And I also made a small fern generator, and super basic, not super refined because they are quite small in the scene. But I could have went for one more level of recursion for the small leaves to make it more accurate if I wanted to see it from closer, more close up. You see that I don't respect at all the the scale. They are huge actually. So in Houdini, I added quite a few layers of scattering on top of the branches and on top of the rocks and all around in the scenes. Put some little duckweeds on the water. There's also some pebble underwater and some, you see the small roots hanging from the duckweeds. So it's all this layer of scattering that makes this complexity at the end. For the big trees here, you just see a proxy of them because actually the big trees here, as you see the main shape, have been sculpted in VR. So I've just used Medium to actually draw the main big shapes. And if we go maybe in the tree, big tree asset generation, you might see the actual base of the tree. So here. This is the tree I've sculpted in VR, and I've just added some more noise on top of it. So I'm resubdividing it, adding some more noise to just add it more visual complexity compared to what I've sculpted in VR. Let me show it with the flat shader. And on top of that, I've made a few layers of scattering as well, and I'm storing everything as the point cloud. So I'm exporting that in Guerilla Render, or you could export that as I don't know, Arnold as stand-in, or maybe a Redshift proxy. And then I've been placing these proxies in the scene. So actually here, maybe on this side, we have the full instance tree. Or maybe I don't have the version with the copy to point. Oh, I do have it. Why it doesn't show up? Yeah, maybe there's too much. I don't show the actual moss because the moss is pretty dense. So here you can see the different kind of plant I modeled. So these ones are just hand modeled because they are not super super accurate because they are seen from far. And yeah, I've generated like three trees like that, and I've placed them in the scene. So instead of scattering on top of the final place tree, I've made one tree with its own scattered asset. Then I placed it in the scene. So you can see here that the result I've been exporting it as a Redshift proxy. So I've just tried to make the scene rendering in Redshift. So it did work, but until one point when the scene becomes too dense, it becomes very slow to start a render. So the time to first pixel for Redshift to store all this geometry in the VRAM start to be a bit long. So I actually moved to my predilection rendering software, Guerilla Render, to actually be more comfortable working with the lighting, and having the strong caching system in Garia make it much more convenient to work with this huge amount of geometries, because you can just store it once in the RAM, and then the render restarts very fast. So I've also simulated a few clouds of mist on top of the water. So I've made a few of them, and then I scatter them around in the scene. So they are actually just instances of VDB. It's not just one big simulation here. It would have been too heavy. I also made a quick setup for the butterflies. So they are just very simple cycles of butterflies. I just made 3 offsetted cycles with this flapping and stopping butterfly at different speed, because they're not always flapping. And I just made 3 of them with the different rhythm, and scatter them on some points as well, and having their velocity as direction for the orientation of the butterflies. So very simple setup, just to make a few butterflies in the scene, just to give a little bit of life. I also animated the flowers, the small flowers on the ground with a noise to have them rotate. So they are not really animated. It's just an attribute on the point that makes them move. So if I go back on maybe on my flower A here, you can see that I've made them move a little bit with the wind, and it's not actually deformation, it's just point orientation animated. So it's actually pretty light, and it just gives a little extra bit of life in the scene. I could have done that on the leaf as well, but then maybe I would have had to make the branch move a little bit. So yeah, animated vegetation is much heavier, because you have to have some animated caches of your geometries. But yeah, I guess having moving vegetation is really the next step when you want to make a scene look more realistic. So with this chapter, we have concluded this tutorial, and I hope it gave you some inspiration to make your own project. And it's been really fun for me to make this environment for this workshop, and I hope you liked it too.